Iowa is known for its tall grass prairies, woodlands, and fertile black farming soil. But near Muscatine, you'll find a special place that breaks the mold.
Really unique to the Midwest, especially to Iowa, because even though it's a sand prairie, and we do have other sand prairies, each sand prairie is a little bit unique, has its own characteristics. This one is very much more like what you would find in the Southwest than you would find in Iowa.
The mound was built by about 20,000 years ago due to outwash coming from ice sheets to the north and depositing their sand and gravel and silt loads as they went. After that time period, when the Ice Age ended, there was lots of water from melting surging down the Mississippi River Valley, and it removed a lot of that sediment. And so by about 17,000 years ago, the Big Sand Mound was in place as a unique structure. There were other sand mounds in the area, and there still are other sand fields, but this is one of the biggest single mounds, I believe, remaining.
The sand on these dunes is deep. Core samples show sand goes down 136 feet. The company that's now Mid-American Energy acquired some of the land and made plans to build an energy plant in the late 1970s.
So they had an environmental study commission throughout this area, and they were astounded at what they found. They realized right away that this is a really unique, special area.
Mid-American Energy set aside 420 acres for a nature preserve. 4 years later, Monsanto added 90 acres of its adjacent property, and together, the two companies formed Big Sand Mound Nature Preserve. The ecosystems include upland and floodplain forest, wetlands, shallow ponds, and sand prairie.
It's like a candy store for researchers and for scientists. They're so excited about it. Word spreads around, and other scientists want to get in on the action because they know that what they see here is something that they don't see anywhere else in Iowa.
Some of the research is aimed at animals on Iowa's endangered species list, the western hognose snake and the yellow mud turtle. It's the only place in Iowa you'll find them. The yellow mud turtle isn't actually yellow in this region. They're brown.
The most interesting thing to me so far is putting the transmitters on these turtles and really seeing where they go. We've got some temperature loggers out there to try to correlate the soil temp, the water temp, the air temp, on what stimulates the turtles either to move from hibernation into the water, from the water back up to estivate, and then eventually back into the water for the summer, and then eventually back up into the sand to hibernate. What are the very important habitat types, or where this turtle's spending 50% of its time, 95% of its time, and how much area it requires to meet all of its ecological needs.
And so knowing their behavior, when they're under the ground, when they're up, can allow us to kind of change our management practices and hopefully protect them even better.
Back in the 1980s, researchers estimated 3,000 to 5,000 yellow mud turtles at Big Sand Mound. Now, there might only be 30.
It's important to continue to do this type of monitoring to see and make sure that that population persists here, because that's the only place we can find them.
And so the daily routine is to come out, walk the fences. We walk the whole length of the fence. There's probably 2 kilometers of fences out here right now. So we walk up them and look for any turtles in buckets. We tend to find a lot of box turtles, not even in the traps, but just in the areas. And so we snap a picture, it records GPS off of our devices. We hit a few buttons and it saves it, and later sends it to a database that we're using to monitor. So,
when the researchers find a new turtle, they notch a unique identifying pattern on the shell. The preserve has possibly the biggest and strongest population of ornate box turtles in the entire country.
The ornate box turtle and the yellow mud turtle will spend their winters in the hill, in the sand. They go down, they dig down deep, they get below the frost line. They're able to spend the winter down there, and so they don't freeze. And in the spring they come up and they both emerge out of the hill. They come down into the prairie areas, except the box turtles stop and the mud turtles keep going down to the water.
Western hognose snakes caught for the first time are injected with a tiny avid chip that can be scanned and used for record keeping. The buckets and traps along the fence lines sometimes catch other critters, like the 6-line race runner lizard, other snakes that call the preserve home, like the racer, and the plains pocket mouse, which is also an endangered species in Iowa.
We continuously find things here that we didn't know were here, or that are only found here, or only a large population is found here. It's really enjoyable to just discover things and to see things that you don't normally see.
You can't create these. So I've done much research on reconstructed, restored, and native prairies and wetlands. The reconstructed and restored ones can have at least some similarity to the real ones in nature. They're not the same. We can't make a fully functioning wetland the same as we have in nature, or from my viewpoint, same thing with prairies.
Fire and grazing were part of what shaped this and what made this the unique site that it is today. And that's part of the reason why we have the biodiversity we have here today. We can reintroduce fire. We can reintroduce grazing. So then the question becomes, when do we do that, and under what conditions do we do that to benefit the broadest suite of species that are on the site and what make it unique?
The harsh conditions at Big Sand Mound create a welcoming environment for plant species that are unusual for Iowa. Plants have to be able to tolerate hot, dry conditions and a low amount of nutrients. Because the ecosystem is so fragile, the preserve is only open to the public once every 3 years. Mid-American and Monsanto host a field day, giving people the rare opportunity to come explore the landscape, see the plants and wildlife, and learn about the research. Environmental education programs have given more than 11,000 students in Muscatine and Louisa counties a chance to visit and learn over the years.
We won't be able to sustain this with our generation. We need the next generation to also hold that of high value and to think about how they get involved and how they sustain this. So really, really cool and really exciting to be part of those educational trips.
It's just cool to learn from the scientists and find out what they're studying, and to see them, and also to see other people being excited about being outdoors and in nature.
Iowa Land and Sky educational programming was funded by the Resource Enhancement and Protection Conservation Education Program.